Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world. Even more particularly to all Church Rod believers and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Colorado, our brethren in Georgia, in Texas, our brethren in Kansas, in Missouri, in Fiji Island, in Mexico, Spain, in Africa, Kenya, Pakistan, to the United Kingdom, and also to our brethren in Australia. And to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad, greetings. May the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. This is our episode number 46 on the subject, the chronological order of events. Upon the special request of our beloved brother Steve and sister Corinne, and to the rest of the brethren who are listening and viewing this program, may the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. Now, I would like to read 1 SR 116. It says, why would God make a double prophecy for the same thing? Because the old prophecy, the type, only gives the details from the beginning of the third angel's message to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. Now, that statement is pointing to the first phase of the third angel's message, which pertains to the judgment concerning the dead. So, the type is the judgment that pertains to the dead, and the antitype is the judgment that pertains to the living. Now, the voice of inspiration is plainly telling in that statement that the type, which is called the old prophecy, I would like to connect this reading in 11 symbolic code. 11 symbolic code, number 3, page 9. Let us read this statement. Now they are fully awake to the fact that they had been mistaken in their belief that the message of the judgment for the dead was sufficient to carry them to the end. Do you not see that the old spirit of prophecy should have already been in our hearts, lambs, and in order to go through successfully to the coming of the bridegroom, we must also have in our possession and readily accessible to us the additional message mentioned in early writings, page 277. The extra oil, the truth of the judgment for the living, the great and dreadful day of the Lord. 11 symbolic code number 3 on page 9. So, that statement saying that the old spirit of prophecy, which is pointing to the judgment that pertains to the dead, is perfectly corroborating to the statement in 1 SR, page 116, which is called the type. So, the statement in 11 symbolic code number 3, page 9, saying, do you not see that the old spirit prophecy should have already been in our hearts? This illustration that the old spirit prophecy should have already been in our hearts can only be understood that the entire proceedings concerning the judgment that pertains to the dead, we already completely understood. And that is pertaining to the book of Daniel. Because the book of Daniel is pertaining to the judgment concerning the dead. Here in tract number 3, on page 49, it says, but the cleansing of the sanctuary at the end of the 2,300 days, according to Daniel 8:14 and Daniel 7, verse 9 and 10, applies directly to the judgment among the dead. Tract number 3, page 49. So, the book of Daniel is directly addressed to the judgment concerning the dead. So, the illustration that the book of Daniel is completely open indicates that the entire proceedings that pertains to the dead is completely understood. And that what it means by the wise virgins that the old spirit of prophecy. What is the old spirit of prophecy? In 11 symbolic code 3:9, the judgment that pertains to the dead. So the statement that the old spirit of prophecy is in our hearts, meaning we completely understood the entire proceedings of the judgment that pertains to the dead. And that is what it means by the book of Daniel is completely opened. So the statement in 1 SR 116 saying, why would God make a double prophecy for the same thing? Because the old prophecy, the type, so that is the old prophecy, the type, only gives the details from the beginning of the third angel's message to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. So what is the beginning of the third angel's message? The judgment that pertains to the dead. So the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9 can be easily understood that that is the end part of the judgment that pertains to the dead from 1844. But we need to distinctly separate the proceedings in the holy place and the proceedings in the most holy place. So here in 2SR 221, let's read again the statement. 2SR 221, summary of commencement and termination of seals. The first seal covers the entire period from Adam to the flood. The second seal from the flood to Abraham. The third seal from Abraham to Christ. The fourth seal from Christ to 1500 AD. And the fifth seal from 1500 AD to 1755. Then it says, the sixth seal from 1755 AD to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. Now, let us now compare the statement in 1 SR 116 saying, from October 22, 1844, the beginning of the third angel's message, which is called the old prophecy, only up to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. But 2SR 221 began on November 1, 1755, the Lisbon earthquake, the commencement of the sixth seal. And it says, from 1755, also up to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. This one is 1 SR 116. This one is 2 SR 221. They have different beginnings, but the end part pointing to the same event, fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. 1 SR 116, it says, from 1844. And we know that that is October 22, 1844. To the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. But this one is 2 SR 221 from 1755. November 1, 1755. Also ended to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. Now, I would like to read 2 SR 213. It says, the sixth seal opens with the Lisbon earthquake of November 1, 1755. Now, I would like to read again the statement in track number 5, page 34. It says, track number 5, page 34. In the main, however, the trumpets and the seals portray an event which is future from John's time and which takes place in heaven, although they also portray kindred events. Of these related events, some are contributory and some are consequent to the main prophetic event. The former naturally precede and the latter naturally follow it historically. So, to repeat again, both the subject of the seven seals and the seven trumpets, let us distinctly separate the kindred events, the related events, the contributory events, and the consequent to the main prophetic event. And the main prophetic event. Now, here, brothers and sisters, kindred event that is pointing to November 1, 1755, the Lisbon earthquake. The related event that is pointing to the darkening of the sun on May 19, 1780. The contributory event that is when the moon become blood, May 20, 1780. And then, the consequent to the main prophetic event, that is the falling of the stars on November 13, 1833. And then the main prophetic event, that is the sealing. A sealing under the sixth seal, or we call the altar, commenced in October 22, 1844. So this statement in 1SR 116, it is pointing to the main prophetic event under the sixth seal from 1844 up to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, 1SR 116. But we focus our attention to the sealing in the holy place before we will consider the sealing in the most holy place. The sealing of God's people is 3 stages, and it is the seal of Jesus Christ, the seal of the Holy Spirit, and the seal of God the Father. The first 2 seals, the seal of Jesus Christ and the seal of the Holy Spirit, is performed in the holy place. But the seal of God the Father is performed in the most holy place. I would like to read first 2SR 100. Let's read page 202 rather. 2SR page 202. There is sufficient scriptural evidence that all the saved in all ages are sealed with the seal of God. For this reason, the 7 periods are called 7 seals, and the names of those who are sealed are written in the book. So that is the book represented by the Lamb's Book of Life, sealed with 7 seals. Who are they that will be written? Only those who receive the seal. The names of those who are sealed are written in the book. Consequently, the book is sealed with 7 seals. And then the quotation is John 6 verse 27, that is pertaining to the seal of God the Father. Ephesians 4:30, and Ephesians 1 verse 13, that is the seal of the Holy Spirit. And 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 19, and 2 Corinthians 1 verse 22, and also Revelation 9 verse 4, which is more pointing to the seal of Jesus Christ. So we have the seal of Jesus Christ, the seal of the Holy Spirit, and the seal of God the Father. But the first 2 seals is bestowed in the holy place. And the last seal must be bestowed in the most holy place, and that is the seal of God the Father. Now, our attention must be focused to the last 2 seals, the 6th seal and the 7th seal. According to 2TG number 12, page 30, it says, whereas the last 2 seals, so that is the 6th seal and the 7th seal, whereas the last 2 seals, which contain the things that pertain to the judgment of the living, to the people who must know that their cases are on trial, are quiet long. The record of the things which the 6th seal reveals is 22 verses long, and the 7th seal is 15 chapters long. 2TG number 12, page 30 and page 31. So, the statement is very plain that the last 2 seals is pertain to the judgment of the living, or in other words, to the saints that will no longer to taste it. That last 2 seals is the most important seals that they need to know, the 6th seal and the 7th seal. Now, we already read that the boundary line of the termination of the 6th seal, according to SR 221, it is the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. The fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. Now, in that reading, we can easily discern, brothers and sisters, that the boundary line between the 6th seal and the 7th seal is the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. Now, I would like to read to you the Old Symbolic Code. In 2 Symbolic Code 5 and 6, page 10. 2 Symbolic Code 5 and 6, page 10. It says, Revelation chapter 8, verse 1, speaking of the silence in heaven for the space of half an hour, proves to be the event of the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, at which time shall Michael stand up. It is at this juncture that Christ puts on his garments of vengeance and surprises the hypocrites in Zion. Now, the statement here in 2 Symbolic Code 5 and 6, page 10, plainly told us that the half-hour silence, it says, proves to be the event of the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. Now, in track number 15, it is even more specific by saying, let us read track number 15, page 67. It says, "The truth, therefore, is trouble-free. Between the judgment of the dead and the judgment of the living stands the half-hour silence, the time absorbed in bringing the first judicial session to a close and in preparing for the second session." Although it points out to the proceedings in the most holy place. But the same procedure or method employed by God in the holy place, that the boundary line between the judgment that pertains to the dead and the judgment that pertains to the living is the half-hour silence, according to the reading track 15, page 67. And according to Symbolic Code 5 and 6, page 10, it is called the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. So the half-hour silence is called the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. Now, let us now study closely. If all the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, there is half-hour silence. For example, let us go to the chart of BT Hotep on the 12 figurative months. September 16, you can see the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, expiration of 5 symbolical months. Now, this is called fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, the expiration of the 5 symbolical months. But there is no half-hour silence here. So, let us distinctly separate the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, which is the half-hour silence, and the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9 by which there is no half-hour silence. Now, the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9 by which there is half-hour silence indicates that that is the time by which the judgment, there is a judgment that is passed, and then before the proceedings to the next proceedings, there must be half-hour silence first. But there is a fulfillment of Ezekiel 9 by which there is no half-hour silence because it occurred in a period of time by which there is no proceedings that had been closed. So, the half-hour silence by which it is called the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9 is only pointing to the time when the proceedings in the holy place is closed, then there must be half-hour silence. And then, when the proceedings in the most holy place that pertains to the dead is closed, then there must be half-hour silence. But if there is no proceedings that is closed, and it is called the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, therefore, there is no half-hour silence in that fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. And the example is this one. September 16, then you can see fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. But there is no half-hour silence here. So, why there is no half-hour silence? Because there is no proceedings that had been closed at that time. So, the half-hour silence must be applied only to the time when the proceedings that pertains to the dead is closed, and before the proceedings that pertains concerning the living begins, there must be half-hour silence, both in the holy place and in the most holy place. So this is the statement in 2 Symbolic Code 5 and 6 on page 10. Now let us go back again to track number 15, page 67. So it says here, "The truth, therefore, is trouble-free," meaning there is no question. "Between the judgment of the dead and the judgment of the living stands the half-hour silence." So, the statement, "Between the judgment of the dead and the judgment of the living stands the half-hour silence," the time absorbed in bringing the first judicial session to a close. And what is the first judicial session? That is the judgment that pertains to the dead. And since it is called session, it is in the most holy place. Because the term used by inspiration in the proceedings in the holy place is judicial sitting. And it says, the time absorbed in bringing the first judicial session to a close and in preparing for the second session. So, let us first resolve completely. When does the first judicial session will be ended? And when does the second judicial session will commence? So it is very important to have a complete understanding concerning that portion. But we will continue that subject on our next episode. And hoping that you will continue listening and be with this program. May the good Lord bless you and have a beautiful, wonderful evening.